This meeting is being recorded.
Well, hello, and thanks for coming. Appreciate it very much. Let's see. Last week, well, I've kind of geared up, for this introduction to Zen class to do it in kind of an introductory way. Although I know pretty much all of you have been practitioners for a while and may understand already a lot of the things that I talked about last week and I will talk about this week. My wife saw the recording from last week and she said, "You do too much mansplaining." And I said, "Well, that's me. I accept my mansplaining, but I am taking that into consideration. So today I'm maybe going to do a little big mind with everybody after we talk for a few minutes. There's still people coming in. Hi, Lee. Hi, Brigitte.
Hi, Bruce.
It's me and a whole screen full of ladies.
All right. My
A little-
phone. Can't see the ladies.
A little
Hello,
intimidating.
ladies.
All right.
I can't promise to stay the whole session because it's dinner time here, but I wanted to just see as much as I can. So I'll be here
Yeah.
for a while, and then when the family comes home, I'll have to have dinner with them.
Okay, thank you so much. That's nice. And Meg has to handle her dogs and stuff here too, but I'll just forge ahead. So introduction to Zen. This is class number 2. Last week, just to recap quickly, I talked about how I wanted to focus this 4 weeks on the principles and practices of Zen and Buddhism, and that these are 2 separate things. The principles are basically the insights and realizations that we might have, and the practices are the methods that we try to get to those insights. And principles are not very many. The Buddha kind of laid them out very early on. The practices have evolved. Of course, meditation's been around a long time, and chanting and bowing and all those kinds of things. And of course, big mind are all methods, practices. But the idea behind all of this is that, as the Buddha laid out in the Four Noble Truths, that life is suffering. This was his mission, to uncover the cause of suffering, and then to figure out if there was a way, if it was possible to relieve suffering, and then how to go about that. Basically the idea is that, in the Second Noble Truth, he said, well, the cause of suffering is desires. And of course, we all know what desires are. We all have desires for all sorts of things. We have desires for things we want, and we have desires to not get things that we don't want. And this leads to attachments. And attachments are when we have tied ourselves to, could be material objects like wealth and things like that. It could be emotions and feelings. We're definitely attached to feeling good and not, but we're also attached in a way to not feeling good. And in other words, attachments can be both pulling in and pushing away. Okay. And ideas and notions and our convictions and those kind of things, and of course our sense of who we are and ourself, who we think we are, who we think we should be, who we think, or how we think other people should see us, how we present ourselves in the world. There's a million attachments. And some of you may know Rich Christofferson sensei, who I roomed with at the Zen Center for a number of years. He and I got quite close, and I learned a lot from him. But Rich Haido sensei, he said the world's covered in glue, and that it's so easy to, I mean, all we do is attach to things. We push away and we pick up. And so this is the cause of suffering, because if something goes against our attachment, then we get angry, and we sometimes can take healthy steps towards fixing that issue, or many times it can lead to unhealthy sort of behaviors to deal with our attachments not being the way we think they should be, which is just another attachment, right? So the idea behind Buddhism is to be free, to be liberated. And of course, just like we say that we all already are Buddhas, we already have our Buddha nature, we just don't realize it. This is the same with attachments. We are completely free, and yet we tie ourselves to these things. And so when we're tied to something, we're not free. It's just like, a ship at a dock, and it ties up to the dock, and then the boat, and maybe they made the choice to tie up to the dock and load new passengers and all that, but the dock is tied to them, they're tied to the dock, and the boat can't freely sail around. When the ship lets go, unties from the dock, it's free to sail around and maybe go nice places, new places, go visit old places, can avoid storms. It's free to move around. And so the idea, first of all, when I talk about this kind of thing, people generally say, well, gosh, I have to be able to operate in the world. I have to, I have attachments. I mean, I love my dogs, and I love my children, and I love watching TV, and I love my politics, and I hate people who don't have my politics, and we have all these attachments, right? To how we are and how we should be and how we should present ourselves, all these things. And it's true. I mean, we don't want to not have attachments, but we want to be free to choose and drop and reattach and unattach and move smoothly and freely, as Ken Wilber would say, to flex and flow through the world. So the problem arises not actually with having an attachment. The problem is not being able to untie yourself from that attachment when needed, or when it's no longer useful. Okay, and to make new attachments that are useful. This is how we operate with karma in the world, because karma doesn't go away if you're enlightened. Matter of fact, there's a famous koan about that, the Hyakujo and the fox, where I won't tell the whole koan, but basically the point of the koan is, and the final line in the koan is, an enlightened person does not ignore karma. Okay, but to get to that place, we first have to see attachments for what they are. And attachments all belong to the dualistic or relative world that's in our minds. Like I said last week, the relative world only exists in the minds of each human. It's each human's personal relative view of the world. The original state and the ongoing and never-ending state of reality is completely free of that. It does not come with names or labels or measurements or judgments, or any of the rest of that. Okay, but we don't see that until we have a glimpse of the absolute, of that actual world without all those names and labels and judgments and measurements. So in Buddhism, the very first, for all, and this is an introductory class, and so this is my kind of talk about things that for starting out in Buddhism and the sort of the mechanics of how it works. That the first thing that is advised to do is to sit and meditate and to drop the thoughts that come through, drop attachments, relax, let go. And this is to get us through this first part and to have a glimpse or an encounter with the absolute, and to see that all the attachments that we have, all the ideas and notions, all of these things that we've bound ourselves to, are in fact made up, and they are in fact impermanent. And of course, one of the main principles or insights of Buddhism is the insight into impermanence. And so when the Buddha talked about greed, anger, and ignorance, the ignorance part is just that we are ignorant of the truth of how reality is, that the absolute is true reality and the relative is what we put onto it, and that is where our attachments lie and where the suffering begins. So they came up with all sorts of upayas, we call our methods, practices, to get us over that, out of the relative and into the absolute, for a glimpse of that, just so that the relative can be illuminated from that direction and seen for what it is. Then, wow, that's an odd sound. It sounds, it sounds like a dog is chewing on a little toy that has a squeaker in it.
Yes. Well, hiding away.
That's okay. So that's the mechanics of it all. So, and that's the idea of Buddhism, is to first identify that, okay, our attachments in the relative world are the problem. The way to see, the way to get past those is to have an enlightenment experience, an encounter with the absolute, see into impermanence, see into cause and effect, see that there is these sort of two views, one of the absolute and one of relative. And so that's where we go first. After that enlightenment experience, which can be a very short glimpse, or it can be a very deep and long kind of what we call a kensho experience, or as Roshi refers to, a dai kensho, which means great kensho. And so then your views are clarified. Your views are, your apprehension of the world is more true, because then you see that everything's impermanent, everything is one, everything is dependent on everything else, all these different insights, and you can see that how the relative plays its role, that our attachments and our moods and feelings and ideas and all that is part of this greater wholeness that includes the relative and absolute, but that the relative side is where we take action in the world, where we make decisions, where we decide what are the attachments that are causing me a problem and what are the attachments that aren't, and are, where may I be causing harm in the world to myself and others. And it loosens those attachments and makes them, or you realize that, oh, this is something I can actually control. This is something I can actually work with, and I'm not what's the expression, the tail wagging the dog. My attachments are not controlling me. I'm controlling my attachments. That's a huge liberation. It's a huge freedom. And it's wonderful. And all of a sudden, the world is a place that is completely creative and completely at your disposal to inform your choices and to detach and reattach in a completely free and open and flexing and flowing way. So this is, I think, where we all like to get to, right? Okay. And it's there for the taking, you know. So the Buddha and many, many others over the years have advised all sorts of different practices to achieve this end. And it's not achievable in the way we normally think of achieving something and grabbing it. It's achieving it in the way that, in sort of an opposite way, that when you let go of all the attachments, then you don't really achieve it. You just realize it. You just realize, and it resets your view of how things work. Okay, any questions so far? All right. I said before some of you were on, I said my wife said I did too much mansplaining in my talk, so I'm going to try to minimize that. Big Mind is a really, really wonderful and unique and interesting method for working on this issue, because instead of just sort of being overwhelmed by, oh my God, how am I going to drop every attachment I have, and just by sitting there meditating, and you know, and so it's a much more precise, kind of focused way to kind of take them one at a time. Okay. And it's not, well, many times, you know, we talk to voices that, you know, the controller, the protector, fear, you know, fear is one that Roshi works with a lot. And it's rightly so, because it underlies most of the problems we have, because we're afraid to let go of some attachments. You know, we're worried, well, you know, am I going to go crazy? Am I going to not be able to function in the world? And, you know, so fear kind of holds us back from all that. So it's right to work with that, and it comes up a lot. But there's many other things to work on. And today I just wanted to go through some Big Mind voices that will help us to sort of feel the experience of taking on and dropping attachments, and just to kind of feel what that feels like, so that, you know, in coming days or weeks, you can feel those feelings when they come up and recognize them, and maybe through that kind of awareness, step back a little bit and think about where you might be attaching and whether you should or not. Okay, so it's kind of a little bit of practice that way. So the first voice I'd like to speak to is the voice of picking up. Okay, so we can all do this together, and if anybody, you know, has a comment or wants to say something about it, just raise your hand. So you are the voice of
picking up.
Picking up. So tell me, why would you want to pick up something? Brigitte? Oh. Hit the mute button.
There we go, I think.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I can't see you, but I can hear you. That's good.
Oh, goddamn.
Yeah.
Wait. Can you see me?
Yes.
Okay.
So why you're the voice of picking up? What makes Brigitte want to pick things up?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually, because just when you asked it, I was like just wanting to speak. But now I'm like, I don't know. Is it just a habit? Maybe that's just what I do. I'm actually not sure I know why I do it. It's just it all seems like mine to pick up.
Okay. And the feeling is
Gotta get this, gotta get this, gotta get this, gotta do this. I'm responsible for that. I want that.
yeah,
Yeah, a desire and aversion.
yeah. Good,
Yeah.
good. Great. Maria, what do you think? How's it feel?
Yes, she is picking up because of shoots. She has a great attachment to shoot. Mostly shoot. Because she should do something.
Oh, shoot. Okay, yeah.
Yes, should think something or shouldn't. All the time she's a big shoot. Yeah, but we never. I realize you called. We are attached to shoot, and it is interesting because I never saw this way that it is an attachment. This shoot, yeah. And I realized that we never did this voice, shoot, the voice of shoot, yeah. But we are talking often about shoots.
So as picking up,
picking up because of shoot, yeah.
And you picked up should.
I pick up what I should pick up, yeah.
including the idea that should is a thing. Right? See how tricky it is? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to jump around. Roshi likes to just work in person, but I like to jump around. Yeah, Hua?
Yeah, when you ask me the question, like why I'm doing this, because as the voice of picking up, I immediately feel this motions like pick this up, pick this up, pick this up. And also I kind of feel like why I'm doing this, I kind of feel like I'm picking up all those stickers and then stick them to a shape of body, and in the beginning, there is no body shape. So all those stickers, I need to pick up all those some stickers to make this body shape person like a body shape.
Right.
And then I kind of feel like the more I pick and the more I stick all those stickers, the clearer the person, the shape will be, and also kind of feels like cool or shinier or something, feels that way,
Yeah, I
I
get
don't
that.
know. Yeah, so interesting. Yeah, but now I can see Hua as a person, or at least a person body shaped something, but full of those stickers.
Yeah.
Using all those stickers to kind of using those stickers to shape this body.
Yeah, a picker and a sticker.
Yeah, and then not just pick up and also stick all those stickers
Yeah.
there.
And this sort of defines the edges or boundaries of the self.
Yeah, and make it like it's really interesting now the image is like full of those stickers and make it like a form or feels like solid something. Yeah. Vast, emptiness, and then using those stickers to create something.
Yeah. And build a self.
Yeah.
Very nice. I agree entirely. Yeah. Let me jump over to Lee. She's got her hand up.
Hello.
Hi, Lee.
Hi. Well, as the voice of picking up, I feel like I'm not tied enough, and it makes me uncomfortable. As if I'm not clear where I'm coming from.
Hmm.
And I was always gonna say, like, I don't come from the same, arises out of the same place, but then I realized, of course, that's an illusion. I think that self creates because she wants the picking up to just come from a certain aspect of the mind, but I'm unsure, just untied, and I want to know where I'm coming from, you know?
Yeah. You know, I think where we're coming from when we are building a self is that we're not realizing impermanence, and we're trying to build a permanent self by picking up and sticking these things up.
Right. Yes,
makes-
that's exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, I am thinking.
Me too.
I
It's okay.
I
It's
just
okay.
I just thought that. I think I think that I'm building all right, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah.
Meg?
Meg is not exactly sure what the voice of picking up is, but I'll just be the voice of picking up, which is to say I pick up. But I'm like a magpie, right? Shiny things over there, different things to pick up. But I have different voices that I'm associated with, which I won't go into right now. But
Yeah.
mostly I just see shiny things and I pick them up. And sometimes I keep them, and sometimes I just have too much stuff in my beak. And so, you know, they just have to go away because I want something new.
That's true. I mean, we never get enough. We never have enough, right?
And Meg can use me, right? Meg knows sort of how to use me a lot of the time, but I just want to pick things up, right? I'm like my dog. There's sticks in the yard, and I just want to go.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Thanks, Meg. Nicola.
Well, it's picking up. I feel there's a need for more security to have things and to do things for other people. So when there's a lack is perceived in these areas that she's not doing enough or not got enough, she needs to pick up more stuff. And it's kind of endless. And it's huge and just takes her over.
Yeah. You know, my daughter, who's 10, or almost 10, you know, I've noticed that, she has several girlfriends around the neighborhood and they play together all the time. And I noticed she picks up characteristics from the other girls,
Mhm.
like the way they say things.
Yeah.
Or little mannerisms and things like that, because she's building a self and she's trying to she's trying things on, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll all want to buy the same shirt and wear it,
Mhm.
together. And yeah, it's very interesting how we build up ourselves
Mhm.
by picking up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Nicola.
Thank you.
Ruth? Oh, did you have your hand up, Ruth, or not?
I did, but I lost my internet. You know, just what you said to Lee struck a chord in me because I'm just kind of spectating here, but it strikes me without really going into it very much is that if I didn't pick up, I would cease to be Ruth. I mean, it makes me who I am, and I don't know why that is or how it works, but there's this compulsion to create myself through this picking up.
It is a compulsion. No question.
But
Yeah.
it's not, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
It's not a compulsion to pick up, it's a compulsion to create. And so there's a reason for it, which I think that's what it is. I don't know. You could suggest another reason. I'd say, oh, that's why it is too. But right now, this feels like maybe something that resonates with me.
Mhm. Yeah. I see that. Brigitte?
Found out how Zoom works on an iPhone. Now I know that. I
Oh, now you're muted again.
There we go.
There.
I think it's not really that I don't see impermanence. I think I pick up because I see if I would stop it, exactly like Ruth said, Birgitte would cease. So, for me, it's a miracle I'm still keeping things together here. It kind of feels like I constantly need to work to keep it together, because otherwise everything constantly just falls apart. So I'm like desperately keep picking things up again and again, so that there's some kind of continued self-identity, because otherwise it's too vulnerable for Birgitte.
Yeah,
No,
yeah, I totally agree.
You know.
It feels that way, and we keep, we keep patching the house, right?
Yeah.
And picking things up, and of course we pick up ideas and convictions about all sorts of things, and opinions about people and politics, and every imaginable thing, right? Material objects that reinforce this. It's constantly patching and reinforcing and defending.
Yeah, and it feels like, at least I can see now, I'm a little different than the self, in the sense that I just pick up stuff and patch it together, and Birgitte confuses that with something permanent, where I'm like, you could just pull the thread, and
Yeah,
but I pull the thread. That's not my job. My job is fighting, to keep.
Your job is picking up.
But I it's just made out of rags, all of it, and it could fall apart. But Birgitte thinks it's real. And I don't want to rupture that idea for her. I'm keeping it together for her to feel real, I think.
Yeah. Speaking of put together with rags, I mean, the kesa, that the monks wear, was originally collected from old rags and sewn together.
Yeah.
With the knowledge that it too would eventually, yeah, there you go.
I'm sitting in quite coming up. Yeah. With the knowledge that you said something. With the knowledge that.
Oh, I don't remember.
So it's just stitching together with the knowledge that it might fall apart, or.
Oh yeah, with the understanding that they put this together out of rags, and that eventually it will become a rag again and then not exist at all. Yeah, this is part of actually sewing the kesa, is to see that.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, I don't know if I should blame Birgitte for thinking that that her little stitching is real, or whether it's me. It's just like, I just keep doing it again and again and again, so it looks real.
Yeah.
Or permanent. Anyway, that's all I want.
Okay, I'd like to go to another voice now. And this is the voice of, instead of pushing away, or instead of picking up, pushing away, the voice of pushing away. And let's see how that feels and how that might relate to what we're talking about. So you're pushing away. Lee.
Pushing away all control. I keep pushing away all control, like continuously. And I think the self is like beginning to take note of it. And just these last couple of days, it's gotten more clear. So it's more like I'm pushing away. By pushing away control, I push away everything almost. Like there's so much that goes. Can't like, she tries, and I'm like, yeah. And she's freaking out.
As pushing away, how do you feel about the voice of picking up?
Oh, I I love that voice. Funny enough. Because I've been so much here for so long that I'm happy to give picking up space as well for the self to recognize that picking up is so also, you know, present here. Yeah, I feel like I want us to really somehow, but yet in a way we can't exist together. So I don't know.
Yeah, and yet you do exist together.
Oh, it's like a big process in the self that is like both at the same time, complete control and yet complete lack of it. And she's going around the self like trying to figure this out, and she's just going nuts by it. Because these voices come up together, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I think let's just go to the next voice very quickly here. Let's speak to the voice of just holding on. So you're not picking up, you're not pushing away. The voice of holding. Lee, you can go ahead, your hands up.
Well, it was just left there, but well, all I know is that I'm just as much holding on as letting go at the same. Yeah, I am here, yet letting go is as much here. Yeah.
Meta?
Yeah, I just get the feeling of holding on, even though there's nothing to hold on to, but the muscle is just holding you. That's the feeling I get right now. I don't know if that makes sense. It's just an impression.
But you're the one that holds on.
Yes, I hold on, and that's good. That's good. Yet sometimes you have to let go as well.
Yeah. Do you, as holding on, do you hold on to the things that have been pushed away as well as the things that have been picked up?
Yes.
Yeah. I think so. Nicola?
Yes, holding on. I'm just resting at anchor, quite comfortable. I'm aware of picking up, pushing away, and see where they're coming from, where they're going. But I'm just here quite comfortably resting at anchor, just ebb and flow. And it's not a tight grip. I'm aware it's just as it is for now. It's okay.
There's nothing you have a tight grip on?
No, we're just resting, that sort of fluidity. Mm.
Okay.
Mm.
And how does the self feel about you?
Not sure she knows about me. She thinks it's all about her. So I let that go. I just do what I need to do.
You just hold on.
I just hold on. That's what I do well, really. So yeah. She doesn't
Hold on.
know. She don't come and interfere, so that's fine. Doesn't flap about.
Hold on for dear life.
Can do sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Meg?
I'm what creates the self. Picking up and pushing away don't create the self, they move. I create Meg. I hold on. And holding on is the essence of Meg as the self.
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I feel about it for me. Lee, did you have another comment?
Yeah, just one that I is holding on. I really feel like I cannot hold on to anything, which sounds strange since I am the voice of holding on. But I did feel like when I was sitting, just I can hold on to the body, and that feels very secure. Like there's holding on in the body, and that is nice.
But eventually the body goes too.
Yeah, but then what am I? Then I am the voice of holding on. Who am I?
The one that's holding on.
And yet Hmm. Yeah.
We hold on despite the reality of impermanence.
So I don't exist as this voice. Then
No, you exist, but not permanently.
I guess in a way I am reality like itself in the way I come into form right now, because this is like this contraction is just held in a way. So this is what.
Yeah. It is a type of contraction, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That feels like a holding, like a grasping.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get that. Kaishin? Go on.
I just feel like each piece of the body is kind of have that contraction of those tension feelings. Like even maybe the throat, it's hard to talk even at this moment. Just like each piece of the body feels like, yeah, and really tiring. Tired feels this.
Does it take a lot of energy to hold on?
Yeah, it's just like, oh, this feeling doesn't feel really pleasant. And I can feel Hua has a lot of judgments about this feeling, this tightness and contraction.
Yeah. You know, I go back to the ship tied at the dock, you know. We're holding on and it's not free to sail.
Yeah, just like trying to hold everything. Oh my God. Hard to breathe, actually.
Yeah. Very, very difficult. And yet it's been done. And by the Buddha and by literally millions since then. And some have become teachers, but many, many more have just lived a much freer life. You know. Lee, did you have another? No, okay. All right, so I think, these ideas of picking up and pushing away and holding on. This is what the Buddha was talking about. Because it's all involves a kind of contraction and resistance and formation, like Hua said, a formation of a self that we want to hold on to, this idea of permanence. And it's not all bad, right? Life can be pretty good, right? I think most of us have pretty good life, and yet, we will run into circumstances. Karma comes along. The world keeps moving and changing, and all of a sudden we find ourselves up against the problem and can't find a way out. And ultimately that problem is death. What's that? Gets a little more serious later, than when we're young, right? And so this training is often really geared to preparing for that sort of ultimate letting go that's going to happen whether we want to let go or not. And if we hold on really, really tightly, how smoothly, how easily can we let all of that go, let everything go, right? So let's move into the next half of this. I'd like to now speak to the voice of dropping, or we could say the voice of letting go. We just take a minute to take that in. What does that feel like to let go of things? It could be little things, big things, whatever. Just, it's a different energy. Lee?
I feel like it could be such a gift for the self, and yet she struggles against me, unable to understand me, how much I could be there for her. I'm this great relief in the whole system. Yeah.
Yeah, Lee, what are how does the self feel about you?
It's double, it's like it's both, because somehow she believes that I am her, like the gift, like the beauty, and yet she's completely terrified because she has no understanding there when I'm really here.
Mhm.
And so she's like really in a it is like I am like dying, you know, and that is just love, you know, and home. But I know this. She cannot believe this. She doesn't understand that I can take care of her and life. And I don't know, will she ever understand this? Or
I agree, Lee. It is, you know, the self is still thinks it's a self, and so the voice of dropping, the self might say, well, I sort of see some good things about it, but I see some scary things about it too. Yeah, very interesting. Meg?
I'm just relaxed. My life is very calm as the voice of letting go. And I offer relief to Meg, which she knows some of the time, right? I mean, holding on to so much shit just gets tiring. And so she can let go and it's okay. And I'm so relaxed, I actually don't even care whether she uses me all the time, but I offer her relaxation. And so, you know, the more she can use me, the easier her life is. There you go. I see things. She doesn't always see things.
I think different life circumstances too can put that to the test, right? Like, I don't know, if some disaster happened and you lost your house, or your house was being threatened to be taken away and you were going to be homeless, you know, not that that would ever happen, or we wish that to happen, but you know, how strong is the voice of letting go or dropping in a situation like that?
Are you asking me? I mean, Meg doesn't pay attention to me then, right? And, you know, for her, the most recent thing, her dog died, right? She didn't let go of that. She's still sad.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, the practices of Buddhism are practices, you know, like practicing piano. And sometimes we don't know how good our practice is. And I'm not picking on you, Meg, in any way, shape, or form.
I can let go of you picking on me, Bruce.
Okay, good. But for all of us, you know, we don't really know how strong our practice is until we have to do a recital, you might say. Right? And we get up on stage and all of a sudden the pressure's on. How strong is our practice then? How strong is our practice in the face of sudden bad things, you know, whatever they might be? So, and I think, you know, it's interesting because this is kind of pointed out in particularly in Tibetan Buddhism, that you know, when it's really hard to practice when everything's kind of going good, right? It's just not the motivation there when things are going, you know. It's, you often see people who, I mean, there's an old phrase from, I think, World War I, that there's no atheists in foxholes, right? So these soldiers, when they're out there and all of a sudden they've gone from, you know, wherever they came from, their life, and they're out in a foxhole and they're getting shot at and bombarded, that suddenly they're praying to God, right? And I think the same is true in Buddhism. You know, how seriously do we take our practice to prepare for the things that impermanence are going to throw at us? So I'm not here to admonish anybody. It's just something I thought of as we're going along. Okay, so dropping, it has its good points, definitely, and it's highly recommended in Buddhism to practice dropping for a multitude of reasons, one of which is just to have this glimpse of the absolute of enlightenment, which can help. And there's another level. Ruth, you want to say something first before
Yeah, thanks for saying you don't mean to admonish, but I felt admonished. And, saying how seriously are we practicing is like, there's a little bit of this. And there is that, because there's the lesson and it comes at the end of the day. And as a pianist, I still have nightmares about walking out on stage and having forgotten to practice. But I felt admonished, and
Okay, fair enough. I'll own that. And to myself too, honestly. I mean, yeah. So
can I just say, I speak as one who is barely a practitioner and who has been looking at a catastrophic family situation. And the one thing I really need to do is be gentle on myself. And the last thing I want to be doing is admonishing myself for feeling grief. So that's where I'm coming from. So thank
Yeah.
you.
No, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, thank you. So one of the other attachments that can happen in Buddhist practice is we become attached to practice, and we can be attached to, that it feels really good to be meditating, or we can be attached to an egoic feeling that, wow, I'm really a good person because I'm a Buddhist. Or, we can attach to, this is like I pointed out before, it's so sticky, the world's full of glue. And one of the glues is, I have built up this image of myself as a spiritual person or a moral person, or, all these kinds of things. And Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche wrote a wonderful book called Spiritual Materialism, which kind of addresses this issue. In Zen, it's addressed in different koans. And so let me speak to the voice of dropping, dropped. Lee?
It's interesting that it's coming up, because I realize I've been coming into this voice the last two weeks, and it's been big due to me having been so, the self having been so caught up in dropping, letting go. And it's a huge relief. Yeah. And it seems like rather that is the path than dropping. Or but you know, having more freedom, more relief.
Yeah, I think it goes kind of back to Maria's point early on of, you know, that I should be dropping. Or that I should be doing this, or I should be doing that. So dropping dropped. Nicola?
I just wrote myself a note as though I've come down off a pedestal of the dropping, as though they were in an elevated position, but it wasn't seen until they were dropped. And this is more where it's at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's a lot freer and easier because you're not afraid of falling off because you just come off.
You're
You
already
didn't
up.
know you were, you know, it's just one of those elevated things that you get in your head.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
You know, they say the reason a bodhisattva doesn't just completely let go and become a never returning Buddha is they still have an attachment to compassion. That's or they drop the idea that there is even Buddhism or a Buddha or any of it. It's dropping everything. It's interesting. It's not easy. And yet it's there for the taking. Passion?
The dropping dropped. I feel the contraction, but it's okay to have that contraction. And somewhat, I kind of feel that, you know, if cold, just wearing. If hot, just take off. If, you know, hungry, just eat. If something, just something, you know, just and then feels like a pure awareness, like this pure awareness. Because I still remember as the dropping, you know, that, you know, feels like swimming in an ocean, but without any drops without taking any water drops. But now I kind of feel it's okay to have some water drops. Yeah, just when it has the water drop, it has the water drops. Or when it just doesn't have that, it just doesn't have that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this kind of takes us in a bit full circle to our Buddhist practice is to drop and then be free to pick up and to just pick up and drop and pick up and drop as needed every moment and not let the tail wag the dog. Right. So like when I talked about the ship being at the dock, you know, when the ship unties from the dock, it's free from the dock, but that doesn't mean it's just going to be adrift. You know, if we think of ourselves as a ship, we all have a motor and a compass, and we can now sail off to wherever. And it's okay to sail here, and it's okay to sail there, and it's okay to avoid a storm, and it's okay to, you know, check out new places. It's also okay to hang out in old places. What freedom really is not just letting go of all attachments and never having attachments again. It's the freedom to see that we have freedom. Okay, and that it's all impermanent, and it's all, which opens up a vast creative space. And a space where we can sail freely around. And not crash into any other ships. Right, or run aground because we had an idea that we should go this way or should do this or should do that. Okay, this is the wisdom of the absolute, is by seeing impermanence deeply, seeing from that insight, the other insights that everything is one thing and it's all connected and it's all operating together and everything is dependent on everything else, is a great freedom. But with that comes a great responsibility, right? To sail the right way and to sail in a way that's not going to cause harm, and to pick up and drop your attachments as needed. And just be free. That's the whole goal of it all, is just liberation, be free. And we bind ourselves. Nobody binds us, we bind ourselves. So I think I'll leave it there. If anybody has any comments or questions, I'd be happy to stay on and talk for a while. But if not, I'll wish you a wonderful day and smooth sailing.
Thank you, Bruce. That was beautiful.
Thanks, Ruth.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye all.
Michael, do you want to talk for a minute? Oh, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, it's a great idea. Thanks.
Just a second. I'm going to just shut the recording off here.